Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm joined by Will Edwards, a dad of two, and he's my kind of guy. He chooses cold water dips and running when most people are choosing excuses. So today, we're going to dive deep into how he got sober and what kept him there, how running became more than just fitness and more of a therapy, why cold water isn't just a challenge for Instagram, it's a tool for the nervous system, your headspace, and your discipline, and how he juggles all of this while still being a dad of two. So let's dive in. Will, take me back. So, what was your childhood like? And are there any early influences that you would say shaped your resilience?
I don't know. It's very difficult when it comes to sort of looking back at childhood, because I think before I went sober and post going sober, the answer would probably be a little bit different. I think it was rose tinted glasses, a little bit of the blinders on. Looking back, it was just a normal childhood, single parent household, grew up on a council estate. Actually quite quiet, introverted growing up. The sort of the target for a lot of bullying when I was in my teenage years. So I think actually maybe that started this or planted the seeds for the resilience side of things and that strong character. Although that didn't really develop until I got significantly older. I was about 14 when I got involved in martial arts, and as a means to an end, really, I thought if I knew how to look after myself, I could. And the confidence really changed actually. Once I knew how to look after myself, the bullying seemed to stop without having to use what I'd learned. And that really set me on a course to be interested in exercise and fitness growing up. And that's actually since the age of about 14 has been a constant, regardless of where I am in life and what's going on.
Mm. So you say martial arts sort of planted the seed with the bullying, and that's where the resilience started. My son's 15 and he boxes.
Yep.
And I was a very keen boxer when I was younger, and I highly recommend anything like that, because not only does it help obviously with your social skills, it's building that discipline, that resilience, it's fitness. There's so many positive things that can come out of learning something like this.
Absolutely. And it's sort of, I got on to progress through it quite well, ended up coaching and teaching. And I always admit I was a bit of one of the outcasts at high school in sort of long hair, black clothes, skateboards, not the typical sporty guy. And because of that, all of the people that were the source of my trouble at school were the sporty guys, the football team, all of that. So I was never really, I did everything to avoid PE. And I remember a teacher looking at my A-level options. One of the teachers sort of took me to one side and really wanted me to go down the PE and the A-level in physical education route. And funnily enough, probably 15, 16 years later, he joined the gym that I was managing. And he was as shocked to see me as I was him. However, he admitted that he knew that there was some sort of interest and potential with exercise from me. And he also knew that the people that were the source of my problems weren't going to be the people that stayed on to do higher education. But I just saw that as a risk. Didn't want to put myself in that situation consciously. So I didn't bother. I did the 2 years of A levels, or nearly the full 2 years, in art, graphics, and music. Very different to what I ended up doing. But then I stepped out, retrained, went back to college, and did another 2 years in sport and exercise. And that sort of really set the ball rolling for now, 20 years later, still working as an exercise specialist within the NHS. So it's,
Okay,
yeah.
so what is your role now then within the NHS,
So
Will?
I work in a cardiac rehabilitation team. So for people that have had heart attacks, heart surgeries, need and transplants, all sorts sort of within that. Our aim is to rehabilitate them, get them back to full fitness, full strength, and beyond what they were doing previously in a sort of 3 month period that they spend with us after having it. So feel incredibly fortunate, to be honest, in that I'm one of those people that actually enjoys getting up and going to work every day. And it's been 3.5 years, but it's the only job I can actually still see myself doing in another 30 years' time, which I've never had before.
Wow.
So yeah, very fortunate.
Mm. So, so your sobriety,
Hmm.
you were saying before, you is it 4 years you've been sober? Did you say?
Yeah, just over 4 years. So it's 4 years, Christmas
Wow.
Day, just gone. Yeah.
So does that tie into your job? Did you go sober and did you see
Yeah.
was that a pivotal moment? Did you see what it was doing to your body through obviously your education and what you had learned? And
It's difficult because I think actually there was a few things that came into place before sobriety was even considered.
okay.
So I was working within a physiotherapy company doing exercise rehabilitation, and I got redeployed during the second COVID, the horrible COVID, not the nice summary one.
Mm,
And that really changed my thoughts around work, around the job I was doing. But I also got to step out
mm,
of quite a toxic environment at that point for 3 months. And I thought, right, I'm going to make the most of this. I'm going to start journaling again, something I did when I was much younger. I'm going to do the cold water therapy. I'm going to stay active. I'm going to read. And I really started to put these things in, but I didn't even consider alcohol. But I'd spent that 3 months and I kept everything in place when I went back to work. And that was really the catalyst for me looking at leaving that environment. But also, a good friend of mine around that time, he set himself a challenge to get in the sea every day for a year, 10 minutes in the North Sea. And I got involved with the cold water through him, but he was very openly an advocate for sobriety. He's in recovery. He is now probably 6 months further on than I am, but he's with alcohol and cocaine addiction, and he
mm,
really recovers loudly. And through talking to him and hearing him talk, it started to plant a seed for me to think about alcohol, how I'd use it, why I'd use it.
mm,
But then there was one day, the pivotal day for me was I'd had a long day. I was back in that toxic environment. Things were getting on top of me. Um, it had been one of those nights, neither kid wanted to go to bed very well. Everything had built up and built up. And I went to the fridge and there was that thought of, I need a beer. And I pulled the fridge open looking for that beer. And I just caught myself. I pulled myself up at that instant
mm,
because I'd say I'm a traditional, typical of my age group drinker, to be honest. It's not addicted in that it was very much the binge drinking culture. I probably wouldn't drink during the week, but then I'd drink far too much over a weekend.
mm,
And as I got older, that same thing happened. It was just the distance between got bigger and bigger. So it was even more of a binge. And then, of course, getting older,
mm,
the recovery was much worse afterwards. But that one day, after talking to Sam, Dare to Dip, my friend, he planted that seed and he'd spoken about his recovery. And I caught myself there just in that instance thinking, well, I need this beer as a coping mechanism. But then the next beer is a
yeah,
coping mechanism. And then you can almost see how that trajectory could map out and it could become a problem. It could become an addiction.
yeah,
And then actually, I thought I'd be really arrogant to think, yeah, that's not going to be me. And to then carry on, I thought would be actually irresponsible. So I decided to set myself a goal a year. 1st of January 2022 would be the year. That Christmas, I bought myself 4 cans. That was it for the whole Christmas period. And
yeah,
actually, Christmas Day, I thought I got halfway through and I thought, you know what, I'm not really feeling it. And it ended up being my sober date was Christmas Day 2021. And
mm,
yeah, I thought a year, that'll be enough to sort of really see and recalibrate and address things. But I got
yeah,
to probably May. I think maybe earlier than May, I knew the outcome of that year. But it probably took me until June, July before I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to go back. And yeah, here we are 4 years later.
yeah. It was dry January for me as well. I thought I'd try it. I was becoming more and more sober
Yeah.
curious and trying to moderate for a couple of years really, and just trying to, I was just fed up with that that voice in my head and battling all the time and trying to cut down
Yeah.
and not cracking on a Thursday and trying to make the weekend longer. And yeah, but I was similar to you. I was a bit of a binge drinker. I had no real bad rock bottom, no
No,
horror story or anything like that. But just a few subtle
yeah.
situations, you could say. And I resonate so much with what you've just said. It's that transition when it goes from wanting to needing.
Yeah.
That's a really, really important point to make. But it takes a lot of self-awareness, I think, to zoom out and look at yourself and have that
Yeah.
realization.
And I think had it not been for that year of journaling and looking and stepping back, it probably would have never happened. I got,
Mm.
yeah.
So you put a lot of it down to the guy that you met, Sam, did
Yes,
you
yeah.
say? Yeah.
So Sam Phillips is got a huge following on sort of Instagram and TikTok. He's really open about his recovery, and yeah, the fact that I actually know him as well is just
Mm.
incredible. To be able to call him a friend is, yeah, something I'm really quite proud of. It's
And you still keep in touch now
yeah,
after 4 years?
yeah, absolutely. He doesn't. He used to live literally around the corner, and every now and then, if either of us had a particularly stressful day or something bad, some bad news, he'd always phone, or I'd phone him, and we'd end up meeting at the usual spot and going and sitting in the sea for 10 minutes and just having that, yeah, that time to talk about nothing and everything, but to be in the cold and the silence, yeah, is
Mm.
brilliant.
And how did you meet him? Did you meet him online? Did you meet him through Instagram
No,
or?
I actually met him through my wife. He was seeing one of her friends years and years ago.
Oh, okay.
And then it was sort of
Mm.
when that stopped, I actually really liked the guy, and it wasn't one of those breakups where you've got to choose sides. And yeah, no, he's
Yeah, it was a good one.
a really nice
Yeah.
guy.
I find it fascinating how we'll come to crossroads in our life or we'll come to
Yeah,
a fork or we'll meet certain people. And a lot of the people that I talk to on this podcast about transformation and about change and about going down different paths, it does come down to a lot of timing, doesn't it? And who you meet and where they are on their own journey and where they're going
yeah,
as well. It's yeah. So yeah, it was meant to be, right? Because
absolutely.
who knows if you wouldn't have met him and you would have met somebody else, then who knows
Yeah,
what would have happened? We probably wouldn't be having this talk today, Will.
no, and especially as like I say, the fact that I didn't have a problem with drink, the fact that I'd go out drinking a couple of times in a year, and
Mm,
as the kids got a bit older, I very rarely had drink in the house. It wouldn't be like there was loads of drink and I'd drink a lot during the week. It'd be typical barbecue, maybe have a few, or a glass of wine while cooking. But it would never be.
mm,
I'd never get drunk in front of the kids, and
mm.
yeah, it just got to the point where it was becoming a smaller and smaller part in life, but it was still there, and it was, yeah, so eating into the following week, which is just not worth it.
Yeah, yeah, you're paying the price, aren't
Yeah,
you? That's what they say. You're paying the price for tomorrow. You're buying tomorrow's happiness. So, what got you into running, Will? Was that always part of your life, or did it just come up after you got sober? Because I obviously I follow you on Instagram, and I'm seeing lots of running at the
yeah.
moment.
Well, it's a strange one because back when I was going through my GCSEs and A levels, and I was kickboxing and boxing, I'd run. It wasn't a sort of. It was just part of the training. I'd do it as homework, and it was back in a time where there was no Strava or smartwatches, so I couldn't tell you what the times
Yeah,
were, what the distances were, or any of it. But it's now I got into running a bit, probably about 15 years ago, but I got into the obstacle courses. I liked the mud runs, and it was actually
yeah,
about the obstacles rather than the running. I used to say you could offer
yeah,
me a 20-mile obstacle course or a 5-mile
mm,
road run, and I'd have chosen the obstacle course all day. So I found running
yeah,
awful and boring. And
yeah,
it now turns out that I wasn't consistent enough and I wasn't slow enough to start with, and I'd end up killing myself a mile down the road. But actually,
yeah,
every between Christmas and New Year, I set out my journal for the next year, and I'll come up with There's a guy called Paul Mort that calls it the 5 Fs, which are fun, fitness, family, finance, and focus. And I try and set myself a handful of goals in each of those. And in 2024, I'd set myself a goal to do something that challenged me and something that I wouldn't normally do. And the guy, again, I met through Instagram and through Sam, Michael Sargood, or Happy Without the Hooch on Instagram.
Mm.
He
Yeah.
got me in a moment of weakness and he said, "Oh, there's space for Alcohol Change UK to run this 10K in London in September." And I thought going sober would be the end of my days of peer pressure. But
Mm.
I was like, he caught me and I was like, do you know what? Actually, yeah. And then I battled through the training for that. It's inconsistent, no real plan. And then I crossed the finish line and I got the medal and I got the t-shirt and that dopamine rush. Like, right, we're going to do this
Mm.
again. And
Yeah.
I said, if I raised £500 for Alcohol Change, I'd enter a half marathon. I tipped over £500 the next day with a anonymous donation that ended up being from my wife. So I then did
Nice.
a local half marathon the year after so September just gone, but it's now without fail, 4 times a week
Mm.
is I'm out
Yeah.
running
Good
probably for about
consistency.
40, 50 kilometers each week. And it's
Mm.
I never thought I'd say that 5 a.m. on a Sunday is my favorite part of the week, but it is. It's sort of getting up in a silent house, trying to get some food down and going out before the world wakes up
Yeah.
is, yeah, something that is truly special
Mm.
from a mental point of view, from a point of view where I always say it's nice to have a space where you're not just work Will, you're not dad, and you can just be Will. But actually, I think when I'm out running the streets and no one else is around, it almost feels like I'm
Mm.
not even Will. It's just
Yeah.
existing,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I remember I used to do my long runs on Sunday mornings, and I used to get up back when we were living in Bristol, and there would be people coming home
Yeah,
from nightclubs and stuff, and I'd be out running, and the sun was coming up
yeah,
at like 4 in the morning or whatever, or 5 in the morning, and it's really special, isn't it?
oh,
It's just so quiet, and
yeah,
the birds are just coming out, and yeah, it's special,
yeah,
really is.
yeah. It is.
Is it for your mental health? That was going to be my next question, Will. How does running help your mental health, and does it help you stay sober as well?
It's Yes, I think it does. In that, I don't think I don't think about alcohol anymore. I don't even think about alcohol-free beers anymore.
Oh, okay.
However, there is times where I was listening to one of your episodes the other day and about a guy running on holiday and seeing a crisp San Miguel glass. And there is those times where you
Yeah,
think,
the
"Oh yeah,
condensation. The condensation.
yeah." You're like, "Oh, there it would be nice," and you do think it, and it's. I wouldn't say. I know people in recovery call it the fuck it button, where they're just like they're going to burn everything to
Mm,
the ground. It's not that, um,
no.
but it's. I think the biggest thing it helps with that mental health, as I've just said, that part of just existing. And
Mm,
there's that theory of having the third place, isn't there, where you've got home, you've got work, and then having that other place. And for years, that would be going out with workmates, getting drunk, and that'd feel like the third place. Or I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu a couple of years now, and it's something I'm trying to make the timings work so I can get back to it. But actually, running is my third place. It is where there's no expectations, there's no need. I'm not, yeah, not accountable to anybody but myself. And it's,
mm.
yeah, I couldn't ask for more. To be honest, I absolutely love it for that.
I think it's when you go sober as well. It's about filling the void, like you just saying, about finding that other space and what you can do,
Yeah,
and that's what so many people do. I think when they do dry January or stop October, they'll they'll stop and they'll be like, because their life has just been revolved around
yeah,
drinking so much. That's why so many people think it's boring, and they're like, "Well, I've got nothing to do." It's
yeah,
like that's because you you've used alcohol so much that it's become part of your identity, And of course, you give it up and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? But that is the time when you can actually live and you can
Yeah.
do all those other things that you could have and should have been doing while you were drinking all those
Yeah.
years. But yeah, that's it. It's a really, really good point. So, have you ever had any days when you don't want to run, and how do you push through it? Because, of course, we're not all perfect and we can't just all get up at 5 every morning and just go run.
There is, there is, there's always times where it sort of the voice nearly wins, and it's usually sort of getting ready in a quiet living room, and you can hear the rain hammering on the conservatory roof, and
Yeah.
you know that actually I could quite easily just stay here and be warm. And
Yeah.
I'll have those thoughts while I'm lacing up. Like, I could do that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
having a plan to follow and having a set, I do it Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays. And
Mm.
actually, if I don't do it now, I can't fit it in later on. So there's no other time to do it. So it's difficult. And there are times, I won't lie, there's been times where the voice has won. Woken up feeling
Mm.
really under the weather, and I thought, actually, it's not worth it
Yeah.
today. But I
Yeah.
think the difference is between that consistency and that commitment and motivation, isn't it? Because you're not going to be motivated all the time, but actually
Mm.
having a goal, a set outcome that you want to achieve. It's the same with the journaling and the goal setting. If you're going to work towards something every month over the year, you need to you need to check the map to make sure you're going in the right direction and
Mm.
tick those things off one run at a time, or one cold dip at a time, or whatever it may be. I
Mm.
think everyone's guilty of, I'm going to stop smoking at New Year's, or those little New Year's resolutions that you ask them in February and they've forgotten what their New Year's resolutions actually were. So
Yeah.
it's having that set targets to achieve is what helps on those days where I don't want to do it.
I think it's good to have uh, a like a North Star, like a main goal, and then have micro goals that are gonna
Yeah.
lead you to that North Star, to that visionary goal.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it because lots of people they have a big vision,
Yeah.
a big North Star, and it's just like so overwhelming. It's like, how am I gonna get there? But if you can break it down and like you just said, and you can have a sort of structure in the week and you can work to that. I think James Clear says in Atomic Habits, if you with your habits and your routines, if you do something more than twice, then that becomes a new
Yeah.
habit. So you can have the odd day off, I think, when you're not feeling it, but as long as you don't do two or more in a row, then
Yeah.
I think that's fine. But yeah, it is tough. I know what you mean about the rain as well, especially for some reason. We'll get on to cold water in a minute, but whenever it's raining, I find it really hard. And I know you've said the same before. Is find it really hard to get in the water. It's
Yeah.
really strange, isn't it?
Yeah. Because you're going out to get wet purposely, but it's strange. And it is I think with the cold water, that's that, like the 2-second rule almost, in that I'll make sure that as soon as both feet are in it, I'm at
Mm,
least up
yeah,
to my neck, if not fully submerged within 2 seconds. Because if I give it a
yeah,
small pause, I'm then there trying to convince myself to do it.
yeah,
Even now,
yeah, yeah. It's that hesitation and that fight and that hesitation.
yeah, and that voice is always lost every time. There's not been one time that I've gone out for an ice bath and gone, actually, no, I won't do it today.
Mm,
It's that voice always loses, but it tries every time.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. And sometimes it's so strange because sometimes it's louder
Yeah.
than other days. I'll go through phases where it's very quiet and I'm really in the zone. And then the last couple of days recently, it's been really loud and it's been like, you don't really need to do this every day. Come on, you can have a day
Yeah.
off. And it's just like, F off. No,
Yeah.
I'm getting in. And then you feel amazing after, and it's so worth it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to go through that struggle and you got to push through. And you never regret it after, do
No.
you? You never regret a workout. You never regret an ice plunge.
No.
Never. And yeah. So, have you got any tips, Will, for people that are just getting into running and they're saying they're too busy or they're unfit and it's not for them?
So, I mean, for me, what really was probably the main catalyst into all of it was making a daily walk a non-negotiable. Again, that was tied to I want to do this many million steps this year.
Mm.
So that works out. I've got to average this many a week. But that started off with being an audio book in, a 20-minute walk at lunchtime every day. Weekends, right, instead of driving to the shop, we'll walk, or we'll walk here, and getting the kids involved. And it ended up then from there being like, right, well, actually, I'll still walk every lunchtime. Admittedly, it was a Tuesday a couple of weeks ago. I had a long lunch period at work. I overslept, didn't get up at 4 o'clock to do my hour-long run. So I was like, actually, I can fit that in at lunchtime. So I swapped it for a run on that day. But it is just small steps. Again, if I went back to that September 24, crying with 300 meters left to do in a 10K that I'd entered that I thought I wouldn't finish. If I now said to him, right, in 18 months, this is what you're going to do, more than double that it wouldn't have been possible. Even the idea of running a half marathon 18 months ago was ridiculous. A year ago seemed insurmountable, but gradually building up, adding 5 minutes on to the long run every week or an extra couple of kilometers. It's now, as a friend of ours, I put a story out on Instagram to see if anyone wanted a social 10 to 12 kilometer easy plod today. And she commented saying that I've just referred to 10 to 12K as an easy plod, which again, wouldn't have. But if you look at that target, if you look at Everest or you look at a marathon, it's going to seem impossible. And that's what stops most people. Same as quitting smoking, going from 20 a day to nothing. But actually putting in those small steps I still catch myself out now. It was just this distance today where I couldn't even do a kilometer non-stop to start with. So it is.
It goes back to consistency, doesn't it? It's all about consistency is key. And the compound effect, and just keep going and keep plodding, like you've just said, really.
And it's that, I mean, like things like, I didn't use it myself naively, but things like the Couch to 5K app is brilliant. I mean, the number of our patients that we recommend it to get back into running after things like heart attacks and whatnot, it can be really effective. So it's just having that. But then that's also the accountability of this app is telling me what to do. I don't have to think about it. If you can take that out of
accountability. Accountability is very important. And if you can surround yourself with the right people and have that community, and everyone's got the same goal, you're surrounded with like-minded people, it's gonna be such an important thing. It hasn't got to be a solo thing. You haven't got to isolate yourself and lock yourself away and train really hard.
No.
If you can get involved in these groups, then it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way of looking at it. And I've never done any of that that Couch to 5K or anything like that. I was quite stupid when I started running. I did a half marathon first,
Right.
and I injured myself really badly. And I remember 2013, I had to watch my wife run the Bath half marathon in down there, Bristol, in the southwest of England. And it drove me mad. I was like, right, I'm gonna recover. I'm gonna do stretching. I'm gonna build up the X, Y, and Z muscles, and I'm gonna do this. And it really, really motivated me. But I should have definitely started at least a 10K. I actually did a half marathon, and then I did a 10K, and then I ended up doing a marathon. But cold water therapy then, Will.
Yep.
My next question was going to be about how you got into it, but I think you touched on it earlier when you met your friend Sam. What does a typical cold water dip routine look like now, today?
So now I set out, I've been doing it with the pod. So even though I live near the sea and I could get to the beach in 10 minutes, there's a really good group that Sam set up called the Dare to Dip group, and they meet, and there's sometimes up to 40, 50 of them there on the sand in the morning, and they do it every
Mm.
day. But it's that time from me, what I'd get from it in the morning of that reduced stress and that lower sort of cortisol level would be given straight back when I knew that I had to rush back to get home to start pack lunches to start
Oh,
the day for the kids. So I invested in the pod for the garden because the showers were good, but they just weren't doing enough for me.
no, no, it's not the same.
It's not, I mean, they worked for 6 months, and then that voice creeps in and you say, these are easy now. And you stop them for a few weeks
Yeah.
and but I, I got the pod in July 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And last, no, 24, I set myself the goal of doing them every day through that year. So I
Mm.
do 'em every morning if I could, sometimes in the evening. I'd film them all, and that was like this big year-long challenge. Now I'm not as strict.
Mm.
I'll do them as and when. In that is, even though I've had the day off work today, I had a slower start to the day. I went for a run. I've potted around. Probably going to have one a little bit later on before bed. However, without fail, I'll go out. I'll get ready. I'll tell myself I don't want to do it. I tell myself I don't need to do it. I'll stand
Yeah.
there. It's more often than not, I spend longer standing there thinking about it than I
Mm.
spend in it. And
Yeah.
certainly spend longer thinking about getting in than I spend actually getting dry afterwards. But there's some days where it's the absolute minimum. I go in, head under, I stay in it until my breathing's under control, till the silence that I get in the brain, that noise, that static stops. A
Mm.
few breaths there, and then I get out and whatnot. But then other days, if I've got the time and the luxury, I'll make a coffee. I'll have a coffee nearby. I'll get in, get under, get my breathing back, and then I'll sit and drink my coffee in there. And
Oh,
it's,
okay. You drink the coffee inside. That's interesting. Okay,
yes,
I've never heard that one before.
but then it's like a bit of a nice experience. Usually that's a weekend, a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock
Oh,
one.
okay. Yeah.
Um, but it is, yeah, as I've said, it's for me. I know if I take my time getting in, I'm going to take ages getting in. Once I've
Mm.
finally sort of had a word with myself and committed to lifting that first foot to step in, I will be under the water within 2 seconds of that foot touching the floor. That is the deal I've made with myself, purely because I know that that monkey mind is far too weak and isn't going to let me. I'm going to bottle it, and I'm going to stand there, and having the camera there filming it helps because I could quite,
Yeah.
even though I could delete the video and you wouldn't know, but I can just,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very true what we were just talking about with accountability. A lot of people, a lot of my old friends say to me, "Why do you go running and film it every day, Luke? You know, are you mental? What's wrong with you, etc." And I'll explain to them. I'll say it's accountability. I said a lot of people
yeah,
follow me, and if I miss a day, they message and say, "Oh, are you okay? What's wrong?" or whatever. I so and this, yeah, it's a subconscious belief. It's like you exactly what you just said. It's a really good point that you're
it
filming
does.
yourself,
Yeah, it really
but
does.
yeah, it definitely holds you accountable. That you said
Yeah,
before as well that you do it just before
yeah.
you go to bed sometimes. I've never heard that before either. I've always done them in the morning. There's a group of people here on the Isle of Man in the town that I
It's
live in Pilled, and
it's
they
truly
go most
baffling,
mornings, but I've
and
never
it
seen
still
anyone do it
doesn't
at
make
night
any
time.
sense to me. However, that rush that you get in the morning, how it wakes you up and gets you sort of really going for the day, it seems stupid to do that at night. It's like, yeah, it's like having a Red Bull
Mm.
is how it sounds, isn't it? But
Yeah,
actually,
that's what I was
it
going to say.
drops your core temperature down, which happens naturally as
Yeah,
you
it
get that
is.
release ready for bed.
Mm.
Honestly, you will never have as good a night's sleep
Mm.
as you have after having an ice bath before bed. It's honestly, I don't do it every day.
Wow. Okay, that's
I'll
something for me
probably
to
do it
try
maybe
then,
once a
definitely.
week, once a fortnight. But it's the first
Mm.
time I'd done it. It was one of those days where I was like, oh,
Okay.
probably 100 days into the challenge, and I thought I'm not feeling it. I'd overslept in the morning. I'd run out of time. All of the excuses that weren't really excuses mounted up. And I was like, right, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to get it done. I can't not. And I slept so well. I came in, I had a cup of like a mint tea or something afterwards to get that sort of core temperature to make sure. And honestly, I slept so well. My sleep score on Garmin was like really high, everything. So it is a real game changer. I definitely recommend it.
Okay, that's something I'm definitely going to try. What temperature
Yeah.
would you recommend? I've asked you, it's just for the listeners because I've racked your brains about this
Yeah.
before, but what
It
temperature would you
is. It's.
recommend?
I think they
Obviously,
say the
with
science says under 15
winter
degrees.
and summer,
I've
it's going
seen
to
other
change
research
anyway.
that
But
says under 19, which is really helpful in the summer because you don't need too much to cool it.
yeah,
Um, I've not got a chiller. I've got one of the basic pods.
yeah,
For me, my favorite temperature is probably about 4 degrees. I know that lower than 4, if I put my head under, admittedly,
bloody hell.
let me run it back. 18 months ago, under 4 degrees, I put my head under, I got brain freeze. However, with a year's worth of growth, I've got an extra bit of insulation now on my head. So it doesn't cool quite as much. Yeah, I think 4 degrees for me is the sweet spot. I find between 9 and 5 degrees harder than I find 4 degrees, which is, yeah, it's again strange. It doesn't make sense.
Right,
However,
okay, it's
in the
interesting.
summer, 14 degrees on a 25-degree day
Mm,
feels just as challenging because it's that ambient temperature as well.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But I think
It's that difference in temperature, isn't it? Obviously. Yeah.
for me, is September, October's the time to start with a pod because you get that drop in temperature. You probably noticed this year, October,
Mm,
the temperature second week, third week of October drops off a cliff. Um, I I expected it to sort of go down like half a degree here and there, but
yeah,
there's just
yeah,
one day you
yeah,
wake up and it's about 4 degrees colder. But it's the same as the cold showers, they're brilliant,
yeah.
but I always recommend turning the hot off till it gets to a section where it takes your breath away and then you get used to that and you turn a bit more hot off rather than going straight in for cold because no one likes it's the point is you're not meant to like it.
Mm,
But for some people that can be enough of a shock to just stop you doing it and actually
yeah.
make it so it's cold enough to be a challenge, get used to it, and then do it again
Mm,
and move the goalposts. If you compare your ideal
mm,
temperature to my 4 degrees, I know people that 2 degrees is the ideal
mm,
spot. I know other people that 7, but yeah, it's what works for each person. Yeah, yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
different, and
definitely.
it is finding your own sweet spot, really. How long are you going in each time then, Will? And
Yeah,
are you submerging your head each time? Because I've stopped doing that now because
yeah.
it's so bloody cold and I get brain freeze. So I've been putting a
No,
hat on and
it's I don't think you
keeping my
need
head
the
above
head dunk.
water, and I feel like I'm cheating a little bit when I
It's
do that.
again, especially below a certain point. When I was on a sort of short hair below a certain temperature, it was just a no go. That ruined the whole dip for me, pretty much. In that, it just gave me that real horrible headache.
Mm,
But it is. I'll go in for
yeah.
sort of between maybe a minute if it's a quick day, and it is just getting that breathing under control, up to about 4 minutes, depending on. I don't really buy into much of the 1 minute per degree. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's getting to that spot. When I first did it, I used to make sure I'd have my heart rate on my watch and I'd go until my heart rate got beyond a certain point, below a certain rate. But
Mm,
it's now actually, if I can control that,
mm.
especially with a head
Oh,
dunk,
okay.
if I can come out and control the panic and I can get my breathing back under control for a good few rounds of breath, then I've done what I need to do. So it's, yeah,
Mm.
sort of a minute and a half to 4 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's that sweet spot. But
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
push
And some
yourself,
people at
then
first,
yeah, and you're going
30
to build
seconds
that
might
discipline
be
muscle as well,
the
aren't you?
absolute
Definitely.
limit. And I'd say if you're starting out, always have a cup of tea ready.
Mm.
And it's that
Mm.
warm drink afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always have hot inside.
No.
Yeah, it makes a difference. But I don't think you should have your coffee
Yeah. And
before,
that's
should you?
so
You
it's
should
something that they
have
call the, I
water before,
think it's called the
then
after
go in
drop,
and then
but
have
it's
your
your
hot
core
drink.
temperature can continue to drop after you get out. So actually having that warm drink can prevent that from happening.
Mm. Okay. You've mentioned breath work there. How do you combine breath work
It
and
is
or
purely,
meditation or anything like that
it's
with
not
your
traditional
dips? Or is
meditation,
it
I wouldn't
just
say,
breath
but I
work?
can't say that it's not a meditation at the same time. Um, in terms of my breath work, it is simply in through my nose for 2, I hold for about 4 to 6, and then taking as long as I can to exhale. And then when I'm
Mm.
in for longer and it's maybe slightly warmer, it will be inhale, hold for as long as comfortable, long, slow exhale out through the mouth, hold for as long as comfortable. And it's then just really getting that sort of that breathing rate down, that heart rate down, just to really go
Mm.
into that real presence. And I think that's where I say I don't traditionally meditate, but there is something, that movement meditation of one foot in front of another, or just focusing on the breathing and thinking about nothing else,
Mm.
which is
Yeah.
what meditation is, isn't it? So it's not typical sat
Mm.
cross-legged on the floor with candles
Mm.
burning, but it is just that pure
Like a monk.
presence in that moment. And I think that's the biggest thing for cold water. I think it's my pinned video on my page is explaining what that does for me. And it is just that
Yeah.
silence, that brain noise, all of the stuff just stops as soon as I'm under the water. It's-
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't help but be present, can you? You're not worrying about what's happened. You're not living in the past.
Yeah.
You're not worrying about the future. Yeah, you're just trying to breathe and and survive and be in the moment. But that's what's so yeah, it's so strange as well because it plays all these tricks on your mind where your mind's trying to talk you out
Yeah.
of it, and then you're in the water, you're submerged, and you're fighting to stay in there. And then it's like the noise and everything
Yeah.
just stops and it clears and you start to get used to the temperature and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very hard to explain. And a lot of people do say to me that I'm crazy for doing it every morning before, after a run. But
Not at all.
again, it's one of
Not
those
at all.
things that
Again,
if you haven't done it,
if
I
I
don't
looked
think you
back
can really understand it
4 or
truly,
5
can
years
you?
ago, if you told me that, forget the running, but if you told me I'd be consciously going and sitting in a giant paddling pool filled with cold water every morning, I'd think you were having me on. But it's, yeah, been a staple part of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the great bits of advice you gave me, Will, was the socks and the gloves. When you first told me, I was like, well, isn't that
Yes, yeah.
cheating?
And
But it's
it's
not
that,
really because
I think for me,
it's
it
your
was
core temperature that you want to
I
get
looked
down.
at
Is
them
that
and I
right?
saw like 2 millimeter stick and I was like, yeah, all right, they're not going to do anything. And so I teach spin classes, and one of my spinners had ordered a pair. He
Mm.
swims is with the Coast Guard, um, but they were too small for him, and he got them on a Black Friday deal. He was like, "Look, I don't want anything for him, but try them for your pod."
Yeah.
And immediately, the difference it made, I couldn't believe. I was shouting from
Yeah.
the rooftops to everybody, like, "You've got to try this." And then that was my first year, and then winter hit. January came, and the temperature continued to drop. And it was actually a real dull ache inside my ankles and in my foot that was stopping me from staying in. So I I got those because there was times where I was like, I've got
Mm.
to get out after 30 seconds
Yeah.
because I'm in pain. Um, so I bought literally just the cheapest pair I could find on Amazon, and
Yeah.
that went from being 30 seconds to back up to 3 minutes just for this little bit
Mm.
of neoprene. And whether there might be purists that say you shouldn't do it, it's cheating, it's whatever. I'm still in for that means I can stay in and get
Yeah.
my fix for 3 minutes rather than actually there's only so many days you can be in pain doing something before you stop doing it. And yeah, that little voice is going to win. And then you're just giving it more ammo to say,
Mm.
well, it hurt
Yeah.
yesterday. And it's getting rid of all of that. Again, excuses, get rid of them.
Yeah. 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 It
Yeah,
makes it that little bit more comfortable, but if you're still getting what you
yeah,
want out of it and it's making it bearable and you're actually going to do it, then
yeah,
of course you're going to do it. You're going to put that hat on, you're going to wear the gloves, you're going to put the socks on. I used to see people down the beach in these outfits, and I was there with just my trunks on, and I was like,
yeah,
what's wrong with you? Why aren't you
yeah,
hardcore? But yeah, I definitely go in a lot more now, and yeah, and you don't dread it as much.
they do. Yeah,
And like you said, they're only thin, but they make a massive difference. It's
yeah.
been a real difference. It's been a game changer. So moving on, Will, how do you balance being a dad of
I
two
think
with all this self
the
care and
biggest thing
training
at
that you do?
first
How do you
is
juggle it?
like I could easily say, well, I get up at this time, and I know I've mentioned getting up in the 4 o'clocks and whatnot, and that's just organically happened. However, I think it's like that analogy of being on an aeroplane, isn't it? In that if the masks come
Mm,
down, you sort yourself out first, and there is the guilt of, well, actually, I'm spending. There's been times where we've had to move runs around to accommodate, so I've gone out for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon. Like that's peak family time, but it's getting rid of that guilt from it. In that, actually, if I was going out in a more socially acceptable way, and I was going out just before bedtime on a Saturday night and coming back in at 3 a.m. and not being good for anything, not waking up until lunchtime, not wanting to communicate, being sick as a dog, that has lost more than 24 hours from that. Whereas actually
mm,
taking an hour here and there, if you can build it into the workday, brilliant. But it is, for me, it's naturally occurred that with
mm,
kids clubs, with my wife's social life and work, with mine, it's just gravitated towards actually, this is a perfect time. I love going out at 5 o'clock. I'll get it done. There's nothing more smug than knowing that you've done a 6 mile run before anybody else has woken up. But I'm seeing
mm.
more and more posts on Instagram. It's in the
Yeah,
last 2 weeks of dad saying my 5 a.m. looks like this, so that my 5 p.m. can look like this. And it is actually,
yeah,
I think it's when it's
yeah,
important enough, when the pain of staying the same gets worse than the pain of change, that's when when it's
no,
gonna sort of come in, and whatever that catalyst
yeah.
is.
So,
Like I say, mine was peer pressure, running a 10K and then foolishly going, I've got a
mm.
nice medal, and that being it. But now I'm just chasing that high every time. I've already got 3 more booked this year just for the medals and the t-shirt.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
You just need to have a good plan. I think you need to, because obviously when you're spinning all these plates, when you're
yeah,
wearing all these different hats, you can't just wing it and say, right, by the way, and it's about communicating with your partner, with your wife, or whatever it might be, I think, and letting your kids know that this is what I do. But if you've got to go to bed a
it
bit
is, and it's
earlier
what
so you can
we
get up a bit earlier, then again, that's the
yeah,
whole
and what do we
discipline thing,
really
isn't it?
lose?
It's
Like,
and
between the
and it's
hours of
working it into
9:30
your
and 11
routine.
o'clock at night, what's really lost is that scrolling through your phone, looking at reels, watching another episode of
Yeah.
something. Don't get me wrong, I fall into the trap. We were saying yesterday, actually, we've been going to bed later than normal this week. And actually, I think the sweet spot is packing up around 9:30, being in bed for 10
Mm,
o'clock. But it is, yeah,
mm.
but it's like, well,
Oh,
actually,
beloved God,
that is, I could
you're
probably
wild.
white knuckle it and go to bed at 11 o'clock and get up at 4:30. But I've only got so many weeks or months of doing that before the wheels come off. And
Mm,
it's realistically, what is the What are you
Yeah,
missing out
exactly.
on that's not going to be there the next morning if you go to bed that bit earlier? So and I think I
Mm.
used to work like 2 till 10 shifts in the gym, and I'd get home at 10:30, and I'd say, well, I've got to unwind. I've got to chill for a bit. I can't just go straight home from work and go to bed because I've not had any of my time at the end of it. So then it's midnight before you go to bed. But realistically, I'd have been a lot better the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
day had I just gone to bed and gone through. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think sleep's so important, isn't it? Sleep and nutrition, which we're going to get onto in a minute. But you've mentioned your kids a few times. How do they react then to your running and your cold water dips?
Yeah.
Are they
I think,
curious? Are they proud, or do they think you're mad? Because my kids think I'm mental, going on these cold dips and
yeah.
coming in through the
Yeah. No,
patio door in the morning, filming
there's
myself. They're like,
times they
"What
were
the
quite,
hell are you
they were
doing, Dad?"
obviously a couple of years younger when I was doing the videos, and there's a number of videos where you can see them looking through the blinds and sort of my youngest running in front of the camera and doing stuff. Um, there's been times where they've gone, I'd like to give it a go. And they've got in and stood up in it and been lifted straight back out
Yeah,
again. Um, they just, they now take it as yeah, dad sits in a bucket of cold water daily.
yeah,
It's sort of normal for them. Or they'll see the famous blue towel and the grey poncho come out and they go, oh, you're going for a dip. And it's just normal. The same as they're used to now coming downstairs and seeing me stretching in the living room because I'm back from a run. It's my youngest has started doing the junior park run nearby. It's a
mhm.
2K on a Sunday. She loves that. My oldest she doesn't like running, but she signed
Oh
up to do
wow.
the cross country as a competition locally. So I think for me, it's showing them that you can do difficult things and that your perception of stuff can change. I always talk about how hard London was, the
Mm,
10K, and
mm.
they, when they can, they come along. So wasn't expecting them to come along to watch at London, but it meant the world that they did. Then they came to the half marathon that I did last year and the one I did last weekend. And
Mm.
even though I know they're there and it's getting easier and easier to do these things, they're not as big of a challenge as they are. Don't get me wrong, I'm pushing hard, but they're not as stressful. No matter when I see them around the course, usually within the first 2 minutes of starting, it ruins me. Sets me off. I'm crying, always overwhelms me with emotion. And then seeing them again
Yeah, you get
coming back
emotional.
the home straight the last 2 minutes without foul wipes me out. Um, and it is just pride that they make me feel like knowing that I'm doing it for, it is for me, but it's to show them and
Yeah.
try and set examples for future. It's, yeah, it is just hoping to instill in them that actually
Mm.
you can do things that don't seem like you can do them. It's, yeah,
Being that positive role model is is so important. I remember when I kept on trying to
yeah,
break the four. I was trying to do a 4 hour marathon, and I failed 3 or 4 times, and I
yeah,
kept on. My first one was like 5 hours, and then I was slowly getting closer and closer. And when I finally did it, I'll never forget. I come back and I hugged the kids, and I said, "There you go, kids." I said, that's just proved if you
yeah,
keep on trying, if you keep on going, you can get there in the end. Just never give
yeah,
up. And yeah, they were probably too young to
yeah.
remember anyway, but I'll
Yeah,
never forget saying it
it
to them.
is,
And
and it's
like
sort
you
of,
said, it's pride, isn't it?
I think it's
It's
very
pride in
easy
yourself.
to get sort of lost in that and compare as well. Like the obviously, I'm seeing more of it because I was more engaged in the running content and the running community online now. But you see all of these like ridiculous speeds that people are doing stuff in, and
Mm.
you can come back thinking, oh, I've done this distance today, but someone's gone out and done double that. But it's sort of, yeah, knowing that it is a
Mm.
solo
Yeah, yeah,
endeavor. It's not about what other people are doing. And actually, the support I get from people that are
yeah,
significantly more accomplished is incredible.
yeah.
It's sort of, I know people that are doing, aiming for
Mm.
sub threes, and
Yeah.
sort of coming in the top 20 of local events. And they're like, "Yeah, you're doing really well."
Mm.
Like, actually, that is incredible. They say it more than people you actually know. And yeah, it's, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's because they know what it takes and they've been where you are. They've been there before, and so they
yeah,
really appreciate what you're doing, whereas
yeah,
most of your friends and family, they won't really understand what you're doing. They think you're a bit mad. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's a really good point. And that
yeah,
comparison thing, I was exactly the same. I would always compare myself to people that were faster than me, and I was always trying to break that 4 hour, yeah, run a sub 4
yeah,
marathon. And then I was always trying to run a sub 2 half marathon, I remember. But yeah, it's a tough thing, and when you're younger, you don't
yeah,
really understand it because you've done cross country, you've done running with the school or whatever in PE, and most kids hate it, don't they? But when you get older, and it's it's like a therapy. It is like a meditation, like you were saying before. And whether you're listening to a podcast, whether you're listening to
yeah.
nothing, you can zone out, and it's your
No,
time,
it is same
and
as
you're just out
the
there and
cold
you're
water. I
running and
think
you
those
feel
that get
free,
it,
don't
get
you?
it,
It's hard to explain.
and until they get it, they're not gonna.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, how has your approach to nutrition, has that changed
yeah. In
much
that,
since you
probably a
started
bit
running
more
and gone sober? Well,
organised and planned throughout a week. I don't know if that's combining with being running and being
mm,
sober, or whether I was just growing up and becoming more of an adult. But it is sort of, we eat really good home cooked meals
yeah,
90% of the time, and it's maybe on occasion there's like, we'll have
mm,
a takeaway or we'll go out for dinner or we'll do
yeah,
something. But it is, I think I've become more mindful of what I'm going to get from what I'm putting in my body now, and it's, yeah, it does. And now that I'm sober as well, it
mm,
was
yeah. What you're feeding yourself, it
leading up
makes a
to our
massive
wedding. I
difference, doesn't
thought I'd
it?
developed a dairy allergy, and I looked into it, and apparently at the age of 30 you can have these changes that can make it. However, probably 6, 7 months ago I
Yeah,
tried to introduce some dairy in, and I had no problem whatsoever. And even admittedly, I was never strict with it. It was, cheese was always fine, chocolate was fine,
okay.
but it would be milk. If I drank milk, that would flatten me. But now I look back and I realise that it was actually just the stress of planning a
Mm,
wedding, trying to accommodate a family where my family is very divided. I've got parts of it that really don't
yeah,
get on, but they both get on with me. So it's trying to sort of battle the stress of that, which actually caused the allergy or the intolerance. So I think now being aware of that, it's another indicator that if I'm having this and these things flare up, there's something that shows that maybe something going on underneath. But no, it is. I'd say I see food much more as fuel now rather than just eat on what I fancy. It's, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it affects your energy. It affects your energy. It affects your mood. I think when you go sober and you start getting into mindfulness and fitness,
yeah,
you become more self-aware, and you really dial down. Yeah, if you get a headache, if
yeah,
you feel, if you're in a low mood or whatever,
yeah,
you can look back and say, right, what have I done? Have I not drank enough water? What did I eat an hour ago? How did I sleep last night? Obviously, we got
yeah.
sleep
Oh,
trackers
absolutely. And it is
and that
that.
now as well. But
I
it's
think
just
so. I
becoming
used to
more
track,
self-aware, I
like,
think.
had I drank 2 liters, had I had coffee, when did I have coffee? And it would be, that would probably, once, even when I've gone sober for the first year,
Yeah.
coffee was a big one for me. I like a good coffee, a strong coffee, but at work, we'd make one. Whoever got in first would make a cafetiere, and then we'd have an admin slot at 10:30. We'd make another one, and then there'd be another admin slot at about 2:30. So we'd have one then as well.
Mm.
And then, admittedly, I'd probably game quite late into the evening, and I'd be really alert and sort of wired. But then it's now, if I've not had a coffee before 11 o'clock, I'm not having one,
Yeah.
and it's that is then just that impact that that's had on my sleep. and doing these other things, like not again gaming and things like that, just moving them earlier so they're done by 9 o'clock, so it isn't impacting that other stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And it's I think the biggest one that was
Mm.
surprisingly
So you can
easy
wind down.
for me is my phone charges in the living room overnight. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a really big one. I was actually on a call with a client last night, and we were talking about taking your phone out of the bedroom. I've literally just
yeah,
put my an alarm clock on my bedside table. I'm really trying to do it at the moment because obviously
yeah.
it's not just when you're scrolling on your phone before you go to bed. It's when you get up in the morning, isn't it?
No,
You're gonna spike your dopamine. You're gonna it's just you just don't need to do it. You need to unwind, and then
no,
you need
it really
to
does. And it's
slowly
sort of I
work your way
was
into the day as
sort of
well. So
concerned
it
about
works
it at
on both
first. I
sides.
bought one of the sunrise alarm clocks that lights the room up because for the first time since we got together and lived together, we were both now able to get
Yeah.
up at the same time each day. So it wasn't a disturbance for one or the other.
Mm.
Admittedly, I don't even use it now. I'm at a point where I'm going to wake up at this time, and within the space of 10 minutes, I'm usually waking up naturally at the time I want to. But yeah, putting the phone in the living room,
Yeah.
unbelievably
Mm.
simple. It forces me to read. Although I'd read before, but it'd be I'd watch videos
Mm.
until whatever, and I'll go, right, I better read because I've
Yeah.
journaling
Yeah.
that I've got to read this many books this year. So it then just
Yeah. Yeah.
spike it all back. Whereas now, getting to bed, my sleep hygiene is so much better in that without fail, I could probably fall asleep within 10 minutes at any given point. If you just give me
Yeah.
some quiet, that's much easier. It's more of a
Yeah.
skill now rather than the body shutting down.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So I've listened to so many podcasts on self development, obviously, over the last few
Yeah.
years, and Chris Williamson from Modern Wisdom has been going on about it quite a lot in recently in the last year. So it's definitely something that I'm going to start doing now. Uh, I think sleep has been such a massive thing for me. Obviously, nutrition's been a big thing
Yeah.
since I've gone sober, but that my sleep quality and my sleep hygiene, having that sleep, having that tracker really showed me with my heart rate variability. I've mentioned it so many times on here.
Yeah.
It affects so much, doesn't it?
I remember the first time
Sleep. It's very, very
it sounds
important.
like painfully simple, but it's like I went to bed like 2 hours earlier and you have that much extra sleep. And I was like, that's weird. I've
Mm.
woken up at 6 o'clock, but I feel like I've had a lay in. But and then you're like, right. So if I just go to bed earlier, I could feel like this all the
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah,
It's just baffling. But it's like, well, I'm a grown up. I can stay up as late as I want. But actually,
yeah,
no. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
They say, don't they, that you should have an alarm to go to bed, not wake up. So you have an alarm, and that has been a real big thing for me actually. Having that reminder, and it sounds stupid, like you just said,
Yeah.
but it's not, is it? It's just that reminder. Right, I really should go to bed now, otherwise I'm not going to feel as good if I don't go now. And yeah, so moving on to back to sobriety, Will.
I
What's the
think
toughest temptation or
for me,
situations you've
probably the
faced
hardest
since
one
going sober?
was we went away for a wedding. We went to a beautiful wedding in Sicily for one of my wife's friends. It's difficult. I don't socialize very well. I always used to need a drink to sort of feel myself. Yeah. Um, and it was
Mm.
actually one because,
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
said, I
yeah.
was
It's a
quite a
classic.
nervous, introverted, shy
Mm.
person. Never really had a huge sense of self when I was younger. I tried to very much a people pleaser and a lot of other sort of masks that sort of came on through childhood, which again, like I said at the start, I've learned over the last 2 years. So it was actually, I was never confident being myself. And that was the biggest fear. I was like, out of all of the guests that we knew that, or that my wife knew and her friends that were going, I knew two of them. I know another couple, but, and the bride, but anyone else that was staying at this hotel that we were at didn't know. There was open bar, free bars at all of the events over the 3 days, and it was so tempting to just think, "Do you know what? I've done my year. I could have a few drinks. I could just have this weekend to do this, and then I can go
Yeah.
back to it." And in the end, yeah, where was that voice? And then what I
Mm.
realized that is even better
Yeah.
than me
That
getting drunk to a
voice.
point where I feel like I can be myself is everybody else is gonna get drunk to a point where I can say what I want and they're not gonna remember.
Yeah.
And actually, there's all of the reward without any of the risk from it. Like,
Mm.
you're gonna get to a point where I can be myself and I'm not gonna feel shit about it tomorrow.
Mm.
I think the first night out was a worry after in my
Yeah.
year sobriety, but that was after I realized that I wasn't going back. And again, it was just that simple. I was ready for all of the things to be said. It was a big laddie night out for a friend's birthday. I was ready for I'm driving or because I don't want to get a gut like you've got or all of these sort of things that I could say.
Mm.
And then, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's not on the plan, isn't it? You've got like a
absolutely.
mental, you've
However,
got a list, haven't you?
as I
Because
was
you know
there, we
those
went
comments
into the first
will
pub
come at some point.
and I broke one of my golden rules. It was about 1 o'clock. I knew it was going to be a late night. I had a black coffee. It was after lunchtime, but I was there and they brought the drinks over and there was like pints and shots and they was like, right, here's the black coffee. And I was like, yeah, that's mine. And I looked and my mate's brother's a prison officer, big guy. And he just turned around and looked at me and raised an eyebrow. I was like, I'm tired. Do you want me to fall asleep later on? And that was it. And then when it came on later on, "What are you drinking?" "I'll just have a lime and soda water, please." "Oh, are you driving?" And it was there. I could have said yes, but I went, "No, I don't drink."
Yeah.
And that is a statement. It is a full stop. There is no, "I'm not drinking for a year. I'm not
Mm.
drinking at the moment." It is, "I don't drink." And they're like, "All right, fair
Yeah.
enough." And they just carried on,
Mm.
which doesn't always happen. It is usually the drinkers that have got the biggest problem with the person that's not drinking.
Oh, brilliant.
But in these, again, I was fortunate to be with a group of people that I could
Yeah.
be myself with, but it was, yeah, just actually not opening
Mm.
any, there was no debate, there was no discussion. It is, I don't do it. And yeah, I mean, I've been on the other end of it over the years and I've been one of those people, what's the matter with you? Why
Oh,
don't you drink? Or are you on antibiotics or is it like, no, it was, we've all been there,
yeah. Yeah.
but actually, yeah, I've found since you say I don't drink,
Yeah.
it's opened some conversations. I've had some really quite deep conversations with strangers about why, um, and especially when you meet another person that is sober, and as well if it's another grey area drinker rather than someone that's an addict. Yeah, as I'd said to again the
Didn't
sober
have any
rebel
rock
when I went on
bottom.
that, it took me so long to not feel like a imposter in this space
Mm.
because it's in a world where I could take it or leave it. I left it. Whereas for a lot of other people, it is a life and death situation. And,
Yeah.
but actually, I think it's like I've sort of
Yeah.
said, is I don't think it shouldn't be a problem for it to be a problem. And
Yeah. If you can nip it
yeah,
in, if you've got that much self awareness that you can nip it in a bud before it gets
yeah,
out of hand,
absolutely. And I think
I think,
I
that's a,
wouldn't change anything about
that's,
it.
it's just
It's,
brilliant, isn't it?
I think how rich and full life is now
No.
for the sake of a few nights out a year
Mm.
it's just not, it's not a trade off.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
chapters in your life as well.
absolutely.
I think it served a purpose back in the day. Like you said, it is a social lubricant. I think when you're younger, you want to fit
Yeah,
in more, and you cave into peer pressure a lot more. You want to fit in with the crowd. Whereas when you get older, you get more set in your ways, and the hangovers get worse as well. And there's just lots of different things in there because a lot of people still say
yeah.
to me, "Why
Oh,
don't you drink?"
absolutely.
And just like, "Oh, how long have you got?" There's so many
No.
different
And
things.
it's I
It's
think
not just one
the
thing.
last time
It's
I
never just
went
one
out
thing, is it?
drinking, was
But
this same guy's birthday the year before, and all of the habits I track, if I read, if I did my cold water therapy, if I exercised, if I drank 2 liters, all of those things were all disrupted for at least a week after that night. So all of these tools I put in place to really make sure my mental health is as resilient and as robust as it can be, they start to falter for one night. And again,
yeah,
why would you do it?
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
absolutely.
It's the domino effect. It affects so many things, doesn't it? When you start drinking when you're younger, when you're a teenager, there's so many pros
Yeah.
to it, and then it swings the other way. The
Yeah.
pros and the cons, it's a seesaw effect, I think, as you get older. And in the end, so many people like us, they're wondering, is it worth it anymore? It's really not worth it. So yeah, just it's better rather than trying to moderate. It's better just to cut it out altogether
Yeah.
and level up in so many different departments of your life. So much more productive. You got so much more time, so much more clarity. It's yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, I've been sober over a year now, and I think so clearly now. I don't get that brain fog. And I was talking with people on a holiday only a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying, I just even though I sometimes it was only once or twice a week I was drinking, I was binge
Yeah.
drinking, but it would affect me so many days after. Still, I think it takes 3 or 4 days to get out of your system, doesn't it? Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, for me, they say they call it the pink cloud, don't they? That good feeling you get after that has carried on for so long for me. I know a lot of people say it dies down after so long, but yeah, I think if you mix it in with all the other things that we've been talking about, cold dips,
Yeah.
um, running, eating well, sleeping well,
It
and you look
does. And I
after
think
yourself, then
it is about
it
just
all works
reframing
together,
what
doesn't
it
it?
means to live a life. I think sometimes it's like you've said before, people say about how boring it is, but how
Mm.
boring is it really when you're hearing the same story again? But I think it is actually, I can't remember where I heard the quote, but it is when they say about living the same year 70 times and calling it a life isn't isn't what we should be doing. I'd be
Yeah,
devastated if I
yeah,
looked back in 10 years and I'm the same person in 10 years' time as I am now. I love where I am now, but
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There's a famous quote from Muhammad Ali.
yeah,
Says, "If you're still the same person after
yeah.
10 years, then
I
you've
think
wasted 10 years of your
looking
life."
back
And
at
that
how different I
is
am
exactly what you've
since
just
going
said, Will.
sober, or since that start of 2020, two different people. And it's actually looking back to 2 years ago, completely different person. And it's incredible because God knows what it's going to be like in another
Mm.
5 years' time. Yeah,
Yeah, it's exciting, and when I speak to old family and like old friends now and family, and there's a
yeah,
lot of negativity, a lot of doom and gloom. We're middle aged, everything's going wrong now, and I'm the opposite. I've completely
yeah,
turned my life around, and I'm excited about the future. You're optimistic, and that's what it gives you.
yeah,
I think you're always looking forward. You always got another goal to set. Yeah, it makes you feel alive. But again,
yeah,
it's one of those unteachable lessons. You've got to do it yourself to really appreciate it. And when people try and preach to me about sobriety who haven't done it, it's like saying to them, if I did your job that you do every day, if I started giving you advice on what you do every day, you'd say, "Well, what are you talking about, Luke?" He said, "You haven't got a clue what you're talking about." I said, "Well, don't lecture me on sobriety then." I said, "If you've been sober for a good year, like you said earlier, give yourself a year,
yeah.
3 months at least, to really see how you're going to feel. Then you might understand." But yeah, it's been really tough for me. I've spoke about it before many
It is.
times about not being so
I
self-righteous
think
and
that is
preaching. It's
probably,
tough, isn't it?
it
I
does
learned
get
that a long
easier
time ago.
the longer it goes on, and that you don't, it's, it is brilliant. And I think everybody
Mm,
should at least try. And I look back, I never used to do
yeah,
sober or dry January because my birthday's at the end of January, and heaven forbid I go through a birthday without having a bit.
yeah,
It just makes no sense. However, I think you can white
Yeah.
knuckle a month, even if you've got an issue. You can really get through a month without dealing with anything. I think for me, a year was a good amount,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
it seemed long enough to actually be a challenge for me, because I go out a few times a year. I could get away without
Mm.
drinking if I
Yeah.
did it for 3 months or 6 months, but actually a year meant social events, Christmas, birthdays, other things, and actually getting through those. And then really, the first podcast I went on, I was 6 months sober, and they asked if I'd go back to it. And I think I said
Mm.
I'd quantify why I wanted a drink. If it was a case of actually, it'd be really nice to have a glass of wine with this meal, let's do this, then yeah, I might go back to it. But now there is no instance in life, no scenario I could imagine being in where having a drink would make it better. And I think it takes a while to get to that. And the year for me was the sweet spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I work with a colleague of mine. Her year was
Mm.
5 years. She said, I'm not going to drink for 5 years. It is. And it's, like when I first met her, I was like, that
Oh,
makes my
wow. It's
one
a
year
long
that I
time.
done look stupid. However, she then got quite anxious leading up towards the end of year 5. She's got
Mm.
people have been counting down to this. People know that I can drink again. And then the date came and it went, and it's now 7 years. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of, you get that thing of it being such a big deal, then it's not. And I think it gets to a point where people just accept that you don't do it. And you get to a point where you realize that actually there will be seeds that are
Yeah.
planted, and some people
Do it
start to see it a bit more, and other people just won't see it until they're ready to see it. Same as
Mm.
starting exercising, eating better, quitting smoking. But yeah, I think again, the sober space is quite a good
Mm.
one in that no one's going to go, well, told you so. I know a few people that sort of have got sober pages and then they'll relapse and they'll disappear
Yeah.
for a week or two and they'll come back and try again. And it is always that support of like, do you know what? If
Yeah.
you fall down 8 times, stand up 9. And it is that something will click. There'll be something that works.
Yeah.
But I think definitely at least 6 months is what we should be trying to do.
Mm.
Really see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6 months. 3 months at least, I would say. Definitely. Yeah. I just remember after 3 months, just feeling just
Yeah.
lighter and more energy. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like a teenager again. Um, yeah, and that pink cloud was well and truly there. Uh, if you could give yourself, your younger self, then, Will, any advice, what would it be looking back
That's a
now
difficult
after
one
what we discussed tonight?
because there's so many different avenues to comment on.
Hmm.
However,
Yeah. What stands out?
I think the
What's
biggest one is
front of
it gets
mind?
better. Life doesn't need to be as complicated as it seems.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's
Mm.
going through teenage years being in like a fight or flight survival mode. And again, that was when I started drinking, 13, 14.
Yeah.
And I thought that's just normal. But then as I've got more sober or sober for longer, you then realize, well, actually at that same time, this was going on in my home life. And then actually I was just escaping from that and I was
Yeah.
self-medicating.
Yeah.
And you see actually, so knowing that it gets better, the people that are meant to be there are meant to be there.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's sort of, you look
Mm.
back and
When
there's
you look
other
back, you
people
can
that have
connect the
not got
dots,
out
right?
of those situations. But it is, yeah, I think that is the biggest thing. I'm involved in a men's group as well. And it's a WhatsApp group chat of men. We meet up every month or so and do a video conference and sort of check in.
Yeah.
It's been quite quiet recently. But then as soon as something comes in with a problem
Oh,
or
no.
something dramatic happening in life, the amount of men that don't know each other that are rallying around and providing this vulnerable, open support is ridiculous. And I think having that space, working with like a mentor in that space to look at all of these other things,
Mm.
yeah, and sort of reading a couple of books and looking at what childhood trauma actually is and the small t trauma side of things. And yeah, again, had it not been for sobriety, I wouldn't have looked into those spaces. I wouldn't have thought about it. Certainly wouldn't have been involved in them.
Mm.
Yeah, I think so. It gets better and I think that's true for every aspect in that there was a point where I didn't think I'd see 38, let alone actually have a family of my own, be happy and have
Mm.
everything materialistically, absolutely, that I've got, but spiritually and emotionally, the world that I'm making for my kids, never thought that'd be possible from where I was as a teenager. Absolutely.
This too shall pass is a good one. Everything's temporary, and it really sounds like you're on the right trajectory now. You've got goals. You're being that good role model. You're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. I think it was
Yeah,
just with the
compared to
blinders on, just
what
looking
your
at what
life
was
was
in
like
front of
5 years
me,
ago,
focusing
it
in far
it
too far into
sounds
the
like it's
future, far too much into the past, but not seeing anything. And it's
yeah,
now, I think the awareness has come with sobriety, come with the work,
yeah,
has been
yeah,
horrible. Don't get me wrong. There's certain parts of my life that I've then completely reframed and thought, actually, wow. But
yeah.
it then makes everything else a lot more worthwhile.
Mm. Are there any books or
So I think
podcasts that
one
you'd
interesting one for me
recommend for
was
anyone? Will?
In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts by Dr. Gabor Mate, and is sort of looking at the connection
Yeah,
between
Gabor Mate. Yeah, he's a legend.
addiction and childhood issues and how there's all of this, and that sort of planted the seed for me at first. Yeah, I think that's the main one that sort of really made sense to me. There was another one I found really interesting. Again, it's more from a trauma response side of things,
Yeah,
but it's quite an in-depth, long, quite science-heavy book. But it's called "The Body Keeps the Score." Yeah, by was it Professor Van der Kolk? That was
yeah, yeah. It's a
fascinating. Blew
classic.
my mind how that something as simple as real stressful situations can genetically and biologically change a person that to the point they can pass it on to their children. Phenomenal.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, that's right.
sort of
Trauma can be passed on.
at
Yeah, through
first you then
genes.
become even more stressed about being a parent and how much significant things that could change. But actually,
Yeah,
yeah, I think for me they
yeah.
were the two that really made the most sense with where my headspace was at those times.
What does the next chapter look like for you then, Will? And where can people connect with you?
Perfect.
I'll
No,
put
that's
all your
cool.
your
So
social
the next chapter
links in the show
is
notes anyway, mate.
more running, seeing how fast and far we can go. A guy I know in the men's group pointed out that we're a similar age. And he was like, oh, at this point, it's about 1,000 days until we hit 40. And at first, my knee jerk response was, but then I sat with it and actually I realized I'm less worried about turning 40 than I was turning 30. And I think that's just with that settling in, becoming myself more,
Oh,
not
nice.
caring as much. However, I was like,
Yeah,
right, marathon. I want to do a marathon before 40. So I've got until
yeah.
January 2028 to get the marathon kicked off. So lots more running,
Nice.
lots more ice
Mm.
baths. Yeah, really sort of pushing on from that. So the name on everything sounds very different when I say it's Chili Willy Runs, but it's chili.will.e.runs
Yeah.
because, Will Edwards, cold, and I'm running. But yeah, I think for me, Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Both of those. Same handle on both.
And that's on Instagram and TikTok, Will,
Same
isn't it?
content
Is
on
that right?
both. It's, yeah, that's where it goes. Continuing with the
Yeah.
running, I've got a couple of strangely like brand ambassador things coming up where I'm starting to advertise products for places. Yeah, it is all really this year is seeing how far and fast we
Oh,
can
no.
go.
Oh,
I did
wow.
a massive personal best in Cambridge half marathon this weekend, and then I've got Ipswich half marathon in September. I'll see how much better I
Yeah.
can get it. And then I've got a couple of local 10Ks between now and then as well to keep me ticking over.
Yeah, nice, mate. It's exciting times, but we were speaking just before we started recording, and I was just saying about injuries because I used to suffer a lot of injuries, but I think my technique was all over the place. I was running distances that I shouldn't have. I was
It's,
probably
well, I think
overtraining. So,
I
but
won
it
one of
sounds
those
like you're going in the right
competitions that I was
direction, mate.
convinced
Anyway.
no one wins. One of the like and comment on this post. And I won a beautiful pair of bright pink trainers that my oldest daughter hates.
Oh, okay.
Um, I won entry to Cambridge half just gone, but then I won 4 months coaching with this guy called Liam. And like I say, I've worked in fitness. I've
Oh,
got
nice.
sort of
Yeah.
various levels of fitness qualification from the last 20 years. But I really bought into it. I was like, right, tell me what to do, take my thought out of it, and I'll just follow it. And I followed it to the letter. I had 1 week off where I was ill. Um,
Yeah.
but it's been incredible. And actually, it's made me a lot more robust. My recovery routines after and my warm up sessions before have got a lot more consistent. And my slow sessions have got a lot slower as well, which is something that I was never very good at. I wouldn't
Mm.
take an easy run, but now it's the two easy ones are really good. So I feel really
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of really good and
That was
really
with me.
confident for what's coming next.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm. No, it's exciting times. Thank you so much, Will, for coming on today, for sharing your wisdom, mate. Especially on the cold water stuff, because it's been a real game changer for me. Like I was saying, my mood, my energy, my morning routine. And you were part of that as well. Like the great advice that
no,
you've
it's a
given me
pleasure. Thank
and the
you.
inspiration from all the social media stuff, mate. So thank you. Cheers, Will.